The Witches is the one that Robert Zemeckis is trying to remake with Anne Hathaway.
She's busy. She's making a Sesame Street movie.
Is she Big Bird?
Welcome to the Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zerrill.
I mean, who wants to have sex with a guy named Bob?
Oh, Bob. Just doesn't sound right. Oh, Bob.
Bob. Oh, Bob.
Oh, Bob.
Bob.
Bob. Bob. With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick.
I am too smart. I am too smart. S-M-R-T. I mean S-M-A-R-R-T.
And Josh Adams.
That's Jaime. Protege of mine. Ranked number 32 in the federal prison system.
32?
That's right.
Out of what, 20?
Visit us at ihatecritics.net. Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our handle there is CriticsPod. That's where our top 5 movie fights, whatever, any other new segment we're trying to introduce for next year is. The trailers, if you remember to post them, are up there. Sean's reviews, interactions. And then our store is also on our social media, but it's also at Everyone's a Critic, or I'm sorry, it's at ihatecritics.net. And then you click on the store. I probably should just actually learn that web address eventually. But we do have 3 shirts now, or it's not even shirts. You can get mugs, pillows, whatever you really want.
3 very versatile logos.
Our actual logo, one that says Everyone's a Critic and I Hate Critics, kind of a throwback to our original name. Then the Lord of the Fitbit shirt. And we're going to try to keep adding more. I know Josh has expressed interest in coming up with ideas, and I've been getting messages from certain listeners suggesting some. Part of me wants to tell you the suggestions. Some of them were mean, some of them are funny. Can I say the mean one? Will anybody get upset?
Oh, no.
Not at all.
I mean, that's really mean.
What's really mean?
It was hashtag him too. And it wasn't Jason from New Mexico.
No, that's all inside jokes are applicable. Sparking discussion or not sparking discussion. That's good. Of course, I would never wear a shirt that said
We'll never sell any.
right. And we'll become famous for being the podcast.
Oh, I'm
put
sure that
up.
shirt already exists somewhere.
Trying to explain it over. It was a joke.
Yeah, we're already used to that with the original name of the podcast. Why do you hate critics? Don't you? Good point. No, I mean, we've gotten several people have come up with ideas, but it's if you have ideas, keep sending them in. Eventually, we may or may not make them. Specifically, if you would buy the shirt, that would be something to make me want to make it. I mean, it's fun to do, but it does take time. But yeah, ihatecritics.net, and then click on the store or the podcast merch. I already lost it. Podcast merch. It's at tpublic.com, something or other. Yeah, I can't even. That's too many letters. And then we're also on Patreon at ihatecritics.net/Patreon. That's the best way to help support the podcast. There we will start adding merch to the perks. I haven't done that yet, but I need to go through and see how to make it work. And then you guys can pick whatever you want, whether it's a phone case or a pillow or a mug or a shirt. All of them are there. What? Phone?
Thong? No.
Thong. No. They don't make thongs. Or I'd have one.
Oh, perhaps that was another thing.
we were before I found this website. Yes, that was a discussion of potential. I own a thong, but I don't have an I Hate Critics.
I was gonna say, I thought you were a thong guy. Best moment of Corey Finneran's life.
Yeah.
At least that's what you proclaimed a few weeks ago.
He proclaims it a lot.
Oh, okay. Something to aspire to.
Yeah, I just shouldn't drink much. That's not a good idea.
Or you end up wearing a thong?
He put it on before he started drinking. It just felt
That's
better
the weird
afterwards.
Just showing people after I was drinking. That's the. Anyway, where were we? Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify. Listen to us there. Subscribe, rate and review the show, or read reviews on the air if we have any. And let's get to our news and trailers and start with Captain Marvel.
Excellent new trailer for Captain Marvel. It's going to be March until we get to see the actual film, and I feel like this has been in development forever, and this wait in between Infinity War and what's happening next, or is in the case of Captain Marvel before, is really, it's starting to gnaw on me a little. I really want this information. I want it now. I've become exactly what Disney and Marvel want. But
They own your soul.
they kind of do in a way, because they know that they've got my money already for the release, as well as my child's ticket, as well as the Blu-ray release. So there you have it. And whatever associated collectibles that might come with it, I'm going to look at it. So they've got me by the nuts. But at the same time, I thought that it was a pretty darn cool looking trailer. The space scenes in particular are really neat. We don't see a lot of space in these movies quite yet, but I'm impressed. It expands a little bit on the first trailer.
Yeah, she's incredible. Brie Larson. She's a great actress. She's selling this performance extraordinarily well. I don't know if you follow her on Instagram. She's awesome. Just so much fun. And yeah, this is a great trailer.
Is it? I don't know. I'm still at that point where I'm about checked out, and with the new Avengers movie having a name and a proper name for me,
Right.
I like her a lot. I don't want new characters anymore. I just want to be done.
Let's be fair. This movie takes place in 1995.
Right.
So it's not a new character. She was there the whole time, man.
Which leaves a lot of room to screw shit up.
Okay. Yeah.
So I don't know, but we'll see. But then we mentioned the Avengers trailer. That came out as well.
Yeah, the Avengers Endgame is the trailer, and it opens with Robert Downey Jr. floating alone in space, leaving a message for Pepper on his helmet somehow. And then, of course, there's a giant spoiler in this stupid trailer at the end. Oh, yeah, by the way, Ant-Man, that ending, forget it. He got out just fine.
Ooh, I think I know why, but that's okay.
It's a fine trailer. You know how I feel about this movie, and that the last movie, they're gonna turn back time. Everybody's coming back. Who cares?
If they could find a way. Nah, I won't go there this time. This can't be a
share your
pun.
feelings.
That was wonderful. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate that. Okay, so this trailer is actually pretty great because the gravity of it is so much that it reminded me a bit of a DC trailer, to be honest. It's grim. It's somewhat hopeless. I saw some genuine emotion from Chris Evans, one of the first times that I've seen that. I like him as an actor. He doesn't really sell me on being that guy.
Well, and Captain America hasn't had to show that kind of emotion yet either. The character has.
Yeah, he's always had to hold it in a way, and so seeing him break just a little bit is very interesting for his character. I love seeing a little cameo that makes an appearance in this trailer. My son flipped out. He had no idea the trailer was out to begin with, so I sent him a message, and he said, what? And he watches it, and then his first words to me are 5 different times the word Ronin, and that's the character that Hawkeye becomes in the comics, and he's clearly become that here in the trailer. It's kind of a morally ambiguous character. That's great. So Hawkeye is here.
And his family's dead.
I would say likely, yeah. He looks a little lost, so to speak, but
Is
it's
that
an
what happens
exciting
in the
trailer.
comic?
Yes.
His family dies?
Oh, the family dying part? I don't know. I've never read a Ronin comic. I've only read Hawkeye comics, but...
So he's like not a good guy, not a bad guy, just kind of whatever guy he wants to be?
Ronin is, I suppose, an apt character name. A samurai warrior, a warrior that's gone on his own way, has broken off from the band, so to speak. But I'm impressed with the trailer, to be honest, and I can't wait to see the movie. I really can't.
Is that next year too?
Yeah, April 26th.
Wow. So they're really close to each other.
Yeah.
What else is coming out comic book wise next year?
Oh, we've got X-Men Dark Phoenix, so that Fox
counts.
can,
That
make
counts.
that.
Like the main ones.
Oh, okay. Well, if we're talking about Marvel,
The ones that'll be pushing $1 billion.
Spider-Man Far From Home, that's for sure. I don't believe anything else for Marvel except those 3 films next year.
DC's
got Shazam, and Wonder Woman 2, which was supposed to come out next November, has been delayed until 2020. So we've got Shazam and the aforementioned films. After that, I'm not sure.
Nice.
He's so thrilled.
Yeah. Oh, Hellboy, I suppose, if you really care about
That's
that.
more of a niche audience or if you want to call it that, I guess. It's still a big audience. Free Solo.
Free Solo is a documentary about a mountain climber, Nick Harold, or not Nick. I can't remember. Harold is his last name, and he's kind of a jerk. He doesn't really have much interaction with people outside of climbing mountains. And what he does is he climbs giant mountains with no equipment, no safety equipment, no harness, no ropes, just his bare hand and some chalk. He climbs mountains that way. And pretty much everybody who's done this as a specialty is dead except for him. And he really doesn't have much of an opinion of that. Like, yeah, they're all dead. Yeah, I know. He does get humanized a little bit because now in his life he's met a woman and he's kind of developed feelings, which is rare for him, as we're told throughout the film. And he's about to try and climb El Capitan, which is this mountain face in California in Yosemite that doesn't really have much for handholds when you climb it. It's pretty flat. So trying to climb that without equipment is kind of an amazing challenge. No one's ever done it before and lived. So he's going to do it. He's been trying to do it for 3 years. He says in the movie that he's driven up to that mountain each year for 3 years and talked himself out of it the first 2 times. He's a fascinating character in that he is kind of like off-putting in many ways. He doesn't have really much of any charm, but he does kind of he almost has like kind of somewhere around the spectrum, maybe. They actually scan his brain in the movie and find out that part of your brain that processes fear and processes whatever makes you scared, his is far less active than the normal human being. So it makes sense that he's doing what he does because he doesn't really realize that he's supposed to be afraid.
Yeah.
And we do get to see a moment of vulnerability where he kind of starts climbing it and then decides not to. But other than that, it's just about him getting there. And I got to give him to him. The final 20 minutes are him climbing it. No spoiler alert. He did this back in 2015 and he's still alive. But it's a harrowing 20 minutes. You're really excited by it. You're riveted by this climb that he's making, and the way they film it is really impressive. I don't know. He doesn't take any responsibility for what he does. This movie's going to inspire other people to think that they can try this stuff and probably get themselves killed. And he's like, well, if you do that, you do that. Which I guess is not his fault. You're dumb enough to do it yourself, then go right ahead. It's a solid documentary. For the last 20 minutes, I would absolutely recommend this movie. But as a piece on a character, I don't know. I don't know what I think of this.
So he's kind of like a dare demon. He's not quite a daredevil, the man without fear. He's the man with some fear, just not a lot.
Not a lot. Way less than the normal person, as his brain scan tells us.
That's very interesting.
So how do we keep this going?
I tried, man. I offered you Dare Demon so you could work that in.
But you did good.
There's no horror film to talk about.
Would you compare it to any other documentaries that are...
I don't know if anybody saw Meru. That came out a few years ago, and that one was about climbing. The same directors, and actually the director is the star of that one himself. And him and 3 friends nearly dying in Singapore, I think it was where they were climbing. But other than that, there's not much really. I mean, there's a lot of mountain climbing documentaries. Not a lot of them. This is the first one I think I've seen outside of an IMAX, because usually that's where they would show those back in the day. when IMAX was just in museums, they would show mountain climbing movies.
You know, I was thinking about the physical strength that it must take to be able to do that.
He's a specimen. He looks like Michael Phelps.
Yeah, okay. And I was thinking you'd almost have to be. Because if you think about, like, now if I do 10 push-ups, then I think I'm going to die. And that's using my shoulders a lot. And this guy has to hang by his shoulders, you know, each time. That's truly special.
He lives in a van, and in his van he's got this hanging bar that he hangs on, you know, and even after he gets back from El Capitan, one of the final things he does in the movie is hanging from the bar. Like, it's weird. Do your muscles feel anything? And his friends are just like, really? You're going to get on the hanging bar right now?
You've revealed something. He has friends.
3 hours it took him to get up that mountain.
He has friends. That's funny.
Well, they're all fellow climbers, and they're all just as obsessed with mountain climbing as him. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if they're friends. They're just kind of all have the same obsession.
Why not just do monkey bars but really high? I don't know.
I bet he does not qualify for a lot of life insurance plans.
Free solo is what Tom Cruise pretends to do in Mission Impossible 3.
Yeah.
Just an interesting note. And mountain climbers kind of think of him as a pussy.
Ooh.
Is that 3 or 2?
Whichever one it is.
The reason I'm wondering is I think the Metallica video was on a mountain, and that was 2.
Oh, yeah. And when Anthony Hopkins is the leader of whatever
2,
organization.
Yeah, okay. My memory's never great on that stuff.
Screw up.
Man, I remember I've tried rock climbing before. Have either of you tried the inside ones with the plastic handles and stuff?
My daughter's awesome at it, but no.
I'm sure. Because she's got freakish physical strength, I'm sure. But
this guy, he injures his ankle at one point, and he's wearing a boot. And so to keep practicing, he actually goes on one of the climbing walls in one of those mountain climbing stores out west. And yeah, he does the rock climbing with a boot on.
We've got a ringer. He climbed in 2 minutes.
Anything else on mountain climbing before we...
I've never done it. It's impressive, I guess. It's also really dumb. And most people who do that without safety equipment die. So there you go.
I mean, I've done trails in the mountains, and there's like scary parts where if you make a wrong step, you're probably not going to die, but you're going to fall and it's going to hurt. At least where I was at, but...
Yeah, he was at 3,000 feet with no safety equipment.
Yeah, good for him.
It's like how do you regard this? Like, what are you supposed to say? Cool. Are you really? I guess I'm impressed. I don't know. What are you going to do with that?
Yeah, it's like, okay, how do you want me to?
I think he's written a bunch of rock climbing books. I don't know if that's a genre, I guess, that people are into. Enough that he lives in a van.
He would be a hell of an astronaut. If you think about it, the physical strength that it would take, climbing certain things in different terrains and whatnot, that would be an interesting skill to have.
Does he have a wife telling him he can't do it anymore?
The girlfriend says
oh, he does have a girlfriend.
Yeah, that's what humanized him a little bit, was that he gets a girlfriend this time. And although every time he takes her climbing, she gets him hurt. Like, she's the reason why he broke his ankle, and she's the reason he had something wrong with his hand. Like, it was all her fault. He almost broke up with her.
You did it. It was right there on the tip of my tongue. You said it anyways.
Bob's wife's friends are taking notes now.
They don't listen.
Well, she doesn't listen. But yet she seems to find out.
Well, just that one time.
All right, it was me. I call her. Here's what he said this week.
That's really what happened. I was in a club and watching the concert, and Sean was like, "Yeah, you guys are swingers." I look at everybody here in this club; they're all swingers. I didn't want to out him on the show last week, but it was him. And then he pretended to not want to come to the New Year's party.
The music of Eyes Wide Shut is playing in my head as you're talking.
It's fun
And
to.
I do like masks.
Part of that's true, part of it's not. You'll never know.
We can tell you anything. You don't know.
The Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, the first time the Coen brothers have been on Netflix. This was originally supposed to be a series of kind of like like a Western Twilight Zone was kind of the initial idea. It's a series of Western stories that then when they decided not to make it a series, they figured out that they had just enough to turn it into a couple-hour feature that happens to be in the style of having, breaks with stories. And the first story you hear is the Ballad of Buster Scruggs, who's a singing cowboy who is also the fastest gun in the West. And the story basically goes that if anyone who considers themselves the fastest gun in the West, the next fast gun is always around the corner. And so, fascinating story. Tim, what's his name?
Tim Blake Nelson.
Tim Blake Nelson, thank you, is the star. He is Buster Scruggs, and you wouldn't think that a guy like him, so slight of build, would be perfect for this, but he is. He's absolutely brilliant in this, and he tends to do that in roles like... I wouldn't have thought he was perfect in Waitress, but he's just, perfect. Just nails his performance in that film. And just anytime you give him something good, he's amazing at it. And he is just absolutely perfect in this role.
Yeah, I agree completely. I don't know why. And I really like Coen Brother movies a lot, and I always kind of, I don't want to say dread watching them, but I feel like there's this sense of homework that sometimes goes with them because they're kind of long usually. But once I got through this 10 minutes or whatever it was for the opening movie, I was not only invested, I was started. I've watched it twice. I made my wife start watching it today, and she loved the first one as well. And you just kind of keep going. You kind of know how it's going to end just based on the tone of the movie, how goofy it is. I thought what happened to him was going to happen sooner. But it was fun. It was quick. It really is a good opening movie to get you ready for the whatever.
It sets a tone. It sets a dark tone for the rest of the movie, even though it's not dark itself. Like, it's actually quite lighthearted about death. The death of Surly Joe is quite dark itself, but he sings a happy song about it. A jaunty tune about the death of Surly Joe.
Are we just talking about the first one?
We'll just
for now.
For now, okay.
Jump
I just
around.
wanted to make sure I didn't go too far into it, but I'm kind of agreeing with what you're saying there, Bob. It's not that it's homework, but there's a particular period of time where if you invest yourself in it, then the payoff is massive and everything that came before it matters. But there's a bit of buildup with Coen Brothers movies. That's totally fine. Knowing them as well as I do, I wasn't as concerned about slowness in any of it. But in that first one, the first kill, you realize, oh, okay, well, this means business. And it almost is, I don't want to shame the Coens, but by saying it's Tarantino-esque, in that the violence is sudden, and I didn't expect it to end the way that it did. That particular death that you're talking about, I'm like, well, he's got no way out of this. And plus it's Clancy Brown. That matters for casting, right? No. But I'm also always impressed with the Coen Brothers' musical selection, be it original or otherwise. They always seem to mix in just the right song at the right time, and with the first one being full of that, it's almost perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like you could almost like put Happy Madison on there. It's that goofy, It's really, but you can make that. If you did this exact same thing it's that type of thing they do, and. But it just, I don't know. It is kind of like you could call it Tarantino. You could call it a lot of things, but they just, I don't know. They capture like you said, it set the tone, but it also, I don't know. It was a good opening movie, nice and quick.
The next one was called Near Algodonas, and this one's got James Franco as a bank robber and Stephen Root the brilliant Stephen Root, who's been in a lot of Coen Brothers movies, as the banker who is not going to go down without a fight. And this is a fascinating story. And you have no idea where this is headed. Indians attack. There's the funniest line in the entire movie. First time. That's the best line of the damn movie. I just died when he said that. That was so great. Oh man. Just wonderful second show. I mean, Franco's terrific. He's not really like playing a Franco character. He's just kind of he's playing an old West character, and it's really cool.
Yeah, James Franco can occasionally act. This is one of those times in a brief segment. I kind of buy him as a guy that's all dirtied up and conning people out of their money and stuff like that. I like this one, but it's probably my least favorite of the vignettes, and that's not necessarily because it's bad. It's still very good, okay? But it's a little too quick for me.
It is the quickest of the 6, isn't it?
I think so. And it offers just the one particular note in that he continues to be in the same scenario, and that's funny and everything. There's just too little of it without enough exposition on his character, which I was actually invested in and wanted to know more about.
Yeah, I suppose you could look at it that way. I in a way, Stephen Root's kind of the best character in the movie, just the way at first you don't really, you know the voice, but you're like, that doesn't look like him.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of, and you do that a lot throughout this whole movie.
True.
But him in particular, and then when he gets robbed, and the way he handles it is hilarious. One of the funniest bits in the movie. And then just him on a horse hanging from a tree is unique, and I don't know, it's just kind of a fun little. I like that these first 2 segments were kind of brief, and they're watchable. It got you going. It set the tone, and now you're starting to go, okay, so someone's going to die at the end of every one of these movies, and you're trying to find out who, you know.
And that's such a clever. Again, that's another clever piece of it. Is like you're slowly realizing that this is about death in the Old West and what people, just how did people live during that time, and this feels so authentic to how people lived at that time. The idea of how someone would come up with a way to deflect bullets is really it's a hilarious visual, and it's super clever.
Yeah, that is weird. The 2 of the funniest thing, the way he kills the second guy in the first, the Buster Scruggs one, is amazing. The poker table. But yeah, and then so between, I don't know, I really like the first 2. I like the whole thing, but yeah.
I mean, it is. I didn't hate any of these. I loved every minute of it. It's like picking the worst of the best because they're all so very, very good. I don't know actually which one I would take as the last one. Meal Ticket was the next one with Liam Neeson in the lead role, and he's playing a guy who's carting around his meal ticket, a man with no arms and no legs who is an incredible orator who performs some of the most incredible speeches in history to audiences that crowd around to hear a guy with arms and legs tell them a story. And it is so evocative of like that is what people would have done. Like, this is the television of its day. Like, this is the opiate of the masses of its day. And that's kind of a fascinating idea. And the story progresses to fewer and fewer audience members, and then he sees something else that might be more profitable, and it leads to something horrible.
Right. And it kind of, I don't know, let's wonder what he did there, and then when you find out kind of what he actually did versus what you thought he might have done, I don't know. It just, to me, this, I don't want to call this my least favorite one, but it had the best payoff, or if you want to call it a payoff. But because that, I don't know, it really got you thinking. It really got you, it kind of messed with you, and it was kind of fucked up. Not kind of fucked up, it was very fucked up. But I don't know. I was the most bored while not being bored up until the payoff, I guess, if that makes sense.
It's got the slowest pace of the other ones.
Yeah, I was thinking that because I recognized the actor right away with no arms and no legs, the kid that played Dudley in the Harry Potter movies. And so, like, oh, that snivelly little kid is without arms and legs now. It was a different role to see him in for sure. And what I was thinking about throughout this was it's similar to Poe stories, like The Cask of Amontillado or The Telltale Heart, where I thought that's how it was going to continue. And in fact, it ended sort of abruptly in that I thought that maybe Liam Neeson's character might be not haunted, but like start to feel the lasting effects of his actions, and instead it doesn't go there at all. It's just very blunt, and it goes along with the idea of the Western being very short to the point, black and white storytelling, okay? And instead of all of the supernatural type of elements, you've got it as realistic and, as you said, authentic as possible.
And I don't want to jump too far ahead, but to me the classic that we picked really goes with this movie perfectly. Mm-hmm. But anyway, continue.
The next one is All Gold Canyon with Tom Waits as the ultimate grizzled prospector. And there's this lovely shot right when it's starting where you look out over this untouched mountainside with this beautiful creek and this beautiful grass, and you suddenly see, you hear the singing first. You hear Tom Waits singing a song, and then all the animals and all the birds start running away. They know something bad is happening. And here he comes into this unspoiled valley and begins to spoil it by looking for gold. And it progresses with him talking to the gold, trying to find it, just digging hole after hole after hole. And they start to get a little bit deeper, and suddenly, oh shit, this guy's digging his own grave. Or is he? Because there's a twist.
But that's the thing. The first three, the whole time you're going, okay, how's this going to happen? Is he all going to drop a rock on him? I mean, you're trying to figure out how he's going to die.
I thought for sure he's just going to dig it too deep.
Right. No matter what, there was just so many. And then what happens? You're like, that's a way to do it. And then that wasn't. Then all of a sudden that twists on you. This one was the most shocking for me because it was one where you like I said, the first three set the tone just kind of kept going with the first three. It kept progressing, but in the same direction. And this one, while it kind of shifted the direction a little bit, but still, stayed the course in a way. But it had me trying to figure out what was going to happen the whole time, and then, it goes its own way.
This one was my favorite of the vignettes, and mainly because of how well Tom Waits sold the prospector, and also I'm glad that you brought up that shot in particular, because I stopped it at that particular moment and just had to look for a minute. The photography in this movie, for being a Netflix film, is absolutely amazing. If you're watching it on high definition television, as I'm sure anyone at this point would be, it matters to mention that the director of photography is Bruno Del Bonell again, and he has worked on Coen Brothers movies in the past. We've praised him many, many times for, like in Amelie, for example, that particular way of shooting things that makes it more realistic, like you're actually there. And that valley was the perfect set to work with. Everything being like that, and no CGI owl, or if it is, it's the best CGI animal I've ever seen. All of this works so well within the story, and it makes it seem like any kind of old Western that I've seen, the honesty of that with the abilities of Coen Brothers as storytellers, it's just a perfect amalgam right here. I loved this one.
Yeah, it really was. In a lot of ways, the climax, I guess, of the movie. And it was right there in the middle. But yeah, it was. I actually watched this one with my daughter. She kind of happened to walk into the room and just kind of was fascinated with it. And then all of a sudden she was like, what the heck? And then when my wife was rewatching it, she kind of walked in when this one started again and she ran out and goes, no, I don't want to watch this. It's too scary. My wife's like, scary? This isn't scary. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's solid. But my favorite one is the next one, which is the girl who got rattled. This is the one that's probably the longest. But they do such an amazing job of creating authentic characters that you invest in emotionally. A girl is traveling in a wagon train to Oregon. She's with her brother. Her brother gets sick and dies, and suddenly she's completely on her own. And we don't really meet much of the kid who's driving her wagon. But we hear about him. He wants money. He's threatening to leave her to tend her own wagon, and so she's getting kind of worried. She keeps talking with the trail manager, Billy Knapp, is played by Bill Heck, and they begin to have these lovely conversations. Nothing special about them. There's nothing romantic really about them. They're kind of functional conversations, but you can sense him investing in this emotionally, and eventually you'll see her kind of investing in it emotionally, and then the way it ends is so desperately tragic. It is so heartbreaking and emotional, and I gotta praise Granger Hines, who plays Mr. Arnold, creates this moment so brilliantly. Bill Heck, his character Billy Knapp, is building up Mr. Arthur throughout this portion. You kind of forget about. There's this little page turn intro to each of the movies, and there's the page turn on this one is a pretty big spoiler, and you don't even realize it until you get there, and it's like, oh my god, wow.
Yeah.
It floored me. I was so emotional during this section. This is easily my favorite part.
Definitely the best death, I guess. Between this one and the third one, I think you care for those two characters the most. But this one specifically, when that happens, you're just kind of like, oh, Jesus.
Oh, Zoe Kazan is the woman, by the way. I barely even mentioned her.
Yeah, that whole... I mean, it's definitely Coen Brothers-y, the end of it, but it's still, and I guess that means a lot of things because they're all over the board. But
it's kind of got elements of True Grit to it, which is really cool.
It's not quite humor, but it's still kind of relaxed. But which makes what happens that much more powerful, at least to me. And then, like you say, you invest in the characters, which you haven't really had to do up until now.
Yeah. Because, I mean, the other ones, you're basically busy anticipating what their death is going to be. And here, this one goes on for a while, and you don't realize it. You're investing emotionally, and you think maybe you know what's going to happen to who, but then it doesn't happen that way, and it's just devastating.
Well, especially I want to get to Josh in a second, I apologize.
No.
The one before it, taking kind of a different direction.
Yeah.
Has you kind of, now you're just kind of like, I don't know what's going to happen. You kind of, I mean, it could be there's 3 or 4 characters that could be the death. So I don't know. It was the perfect spot for this short.
I like their patience with this one too. Not only with the dog, that I think it's a Jack Russell Terrier that was introduced,
President Pierce.
President Pierce. That's wonderful. But the dog, is going to factor into the story somehow, even though it initially might seem to the unknownst watcher or whatnot that dog is going to be just a cute dog, right? I think it matters to the story. There's no reason why you would introduce the dog as being a problem, then have what happens for it to not come back into the story. And as soon as I heard the bark, I'm like,
right?
Oh,
yeah.
Well,
God damn it.
Everything's wrong now. But also the patience with this scene involving a rush of Indians onto...
Oh, God, that was brilliant.
Yeah. They actually take it from behind him, the camera, to show how this is converging upon him, and you think to yourself, well, there's no way that these people are going to get out of this. But what the character does, because he's been built up well over the extent of this segment, you really understand that he might actually have this under control, and they might actually get out of it, and that's what makes the ending of it so impactful. It's a hell of a one. If there wasn't such the romanticism behind the camera work in the Prospector one, I would say this is my favorite too. But this is definitely number 2.
Yeah, and I read an interview with the Coen brothers, kind of why they went to Netflix, and if they enjoyed making this one. They said they would have enjoyed it if they were younger. Apparently, this one was the hardest because of all the animals they were dealing with and the trail and all. It would just being out there in the middle of nowhere. It was just a big grind on them, and they're not young anymore. But it was. Yeah, go ahead.
And the final one is called The Mortal Remains, and this is we turn back to music here. We start this one with music, and we kind of end this one with beautiful songs, and the way the color changes, I mean, it's just even the title, Mortal Remains, kind of tells you where this is heading, but it's all so very, very strange, because they're talking a lot about this corpse that's on top of the carriage, which is a great way of throwing you off of exactly where we're headed. Did you pick up on the character played by Saul Rubinek? and the character at the beginning played by David Krumholtz.
Do you think that they're the same character?
They're both named the Frenchman in the movie.
Ah, okay.
And I mean, if you think about it, the look of Krumholtz at the beginning and the look of Saul Rubinek at the end.
Yeah, I could buy that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
But it makes sense, though, in the journey, the time frame, the passage of time, and where they are. It's fascinating. I kept looking at the other characters, trying to figure out if they'd occurred earlier. Yeah, I didn't pick up on it, but the two bounty hunters, one of them played by Brendan Gleeson, fascinating characters. There's an element to it that feels a lot like the Hateful Eight in a little way.
Yeah.
That beautiful shot of the carriage driver, who you never really get a chance to see, but Saul Rubinek leans out a window to look up at him, and he looks like this horrifying cartoon monster almost. The way he's just throwing the whip, and he is not stopping for anything.
Yeah, and any character, thanks to Hereditary, every time a character sticks their head out a window, I'm waiting for that moment. And if that had happened in this particular...
it would have made sense.
It would have made plenty of sense.
Yeah, I mean, it really is the whole thing. It's like, 2 hours and 15 minutes, give or take, 10 minutes, something like that. But it's, one, you don't have to watch it in one sitting, which is kind of neat and nice. But two, it's so Coen Brothers. I mean, it's not a step down because it's on Netflix. It's just kind of different that it's on Netflix, I guess.
Yeah, I think it opens and closes very similar to other films. Title sequences, for example. Things that would throw you off from it being theatrical don't really occur here. It's still their mastery of storytelling they've got, and that authenticity just means so much here. I watch other Westerns, and even if they're really good, it's still got a sheen to it. People talk like they're trying to do an accent from the Old West. Instead, just cast Tom Waits. He already looks like he was born in the 1850s. So they've got all of the right ideas here. They just know how to make a wonderful movie. I think I've disliked 2 of their movies.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, I guess I don't know what the best part of it is, but I just love the way they pace this, the order of it. It was just so perfect.
The authentic dialogue too, and it never, as much as it sounds weird to us, it hits our ear funny. The way they say it feels authentic. Like this is the kind of word I use all the time, every day.
In each, the tone shifts so much from each movie. I mean, I know I'm probably pissed Sean off when I said Happy Madison, but it's so goofy, the first one, and none of them even get that close to goofy again. They each have their own tone to it, but somehow all fit together perfectly. It's Coen Brothers.
Yeah, geniuses. Would you say this is among your favorite movies of the year?
Because it's Netflix, I didn't even really think about it. Now, I'd imagine, yeah, probably. It's definitely top 10. Probably right in that 5 to 7 range, maybe.
I think that's roughly the same as mine. It'll definitely make my top 10, mainly because I know I won't see enough to make like a critic's version of a top 10. But I know that it's wonderful regardless of being on Netflix.
The problem I'm having right now is now that I'm kind of catching up with some of the movies out there coming to video and whatnot, it's just being, I don't know how critics do it this time of year. You just get burnt out, and stuff that's good but it's not in your wheelhouse, you could recognize that it's good, like we talked about last week with the Melissa McCarthy movie. I know that it's good, and I saw that Stalin movie, whatever that's
Death
called.
of Stalin.
Yeah. If I had seen this in context when it came out, and in like early spring or whatever it was when it came out, or maybe it was late winter, I probably would have loved it way more than when I saw it now. And it's just because I'm so, it's movie on top of movie on top of movie. Plus, you're throwing in a Coen Brothers movie, 2 of them this week. Good luck competing with that. Right. Especially, we'll get to our Undisputed Classic right now. Our Undisputed Classic is No Country for Old Men.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event for the linear, legitimate, and universally recognized Undisputed Classic.
In a lot of ways, I'm watching this thinking this might be the best movie of the 2000s since 2000 or something like that. Or it's definitely up in the conversation, I think. And watching this and Buster Scruggs in the same week, not to mention First Reformed last week, it's hard to get through some other good movies and love them as much as I should.
In No Country for Old Men, came out the same year as the There Will Be Blood, right?
Yeah,
indeed.
They were competing with each other, and There Will Be Blood for me was a revelation when we watched it again as a classic, and I still don't know where I fall, honestly, on which one I like better, because they're both so unique and so artful. But this movie is such a masterclass in tone and dread and violence. It's just genius. The opening scene where you see Anton Chigurh getting arrested and then committing that first murder and then that second murder. He's like he's Freddy, Jason, and Michael Myers all in one, but real. Like he is just dread in human form. And you see anytime you see the lock already popped, you're like, oh fuck.
That first kill, one of the scariest kills in all of movies.
That look on his face. I mean, my God, the impassivity, but the crazy eyes. I mean, this is one of the greatest single acting performances of all time, as he is just the single most intimidating character I think may have ever seen. He's incredible, and he is like this specter that hangs over the entire movie. But the plot kicks in with a guy named Llewellyn Moss, played by Josh Brolin, coming upon this scene of a failed drug trade. There's a bunch of dead bodies, and he gets it in his head that there's one guy had to get away, so he tracks that, and that's where he finds $2 million in a satchel. And, of course, he takes it with him. But there's also a guy who's still alive, and that's where he makes his mistake. He's still got his humanity, and that's an interesting part of this, is that exploration of what makes us human, is that he can't let that guy be out there by himself with, I've got the money back here, I'm going to go take this guy some water. Like, that is such a... and, of course, it's the biggest possible mistake you can make.
Yeah, considering that humanity is a flaw.
Right? In this movie it is.
Well, in life, I mean, it really is. I mean, Anton Chigurh's character does not give a shit. Whatever's in his way, he's gonna kill it.
Yeah.
And if it's not in his ways, he's going to flip a coin and decide if he's going to kill it or not. You know, it's kind of...
It's a violation of Darwin's rule. I mean, to have humanity win would not be the case. Survival of the fittest is the way things go. I'm sure in his mind he believes I'm the fittest. Okay. And this entire movie it's simple storytelling, just like any other type of a Western, be it modern or whatnot. It's very simple, but... The dread, as you spoke of, is so much more pronounced in this one than any other Western that I can think of, too. Even when I look back at Unforgiven, it's just got this cloud of, like, don't do the right thing, okay? If you're not a bad guy, then you shouldn't even be in this story, okay? Get out, because it will eventually find you. The contrast between the innocence of Kelly MacDonald's character and Anton Chigurh right there in the same scene is like it's like the devil and God in the same scene almost. Not that she's completely faultless or anything, but I think that there's such a clear difference.
The interplay of innocence and evil.
Yeah.
What Josh... if you're not a good character, you seem to get out. But that's the great thing about Tommy Lee Jones' character is he's the character trying to get out of the story. And I don't know. It's simple storytelling with complex themes, I think, and I agree. It's not only the grimmest Western, it's like the grimmest horror movie. I mean, it doesn't get much grimmer than that. I love this movie, and I don't know why. Maybe it's, the reason why I like The Departed. It's not my favorite Scorsese movie, but it's my Scorsese movie because I was young when the other good ones came out. This one came out, and it was mine. And this No Country for Old Men is kind of my Coen brother movie. Yeah, Fargo and Big Lebowski. I was still younger. I was much older and could really grab onto this. I was the appropriate age, and this might be my favorite one. I've been struggling with this, as we're going to get to that later, but I love this movie.
Yeah, I do too. It's really fantastic. I mean, it's brilliantly directed too. It's a great looking movie. The casting is perfect. Woody Harrelson, how amazing is Woody Harrelson? Stephen Root, incredible death. I mean, just absolutely amazing. I love that scene at the end where he just asks that guy, "Did you see me?" Fuck. That scene with him and Kelly MacDonald is perfect, where she's confronting him with his nature and he's refusing to admit it, and oh man.
And at no point are they, we've had the argument in the past, especially from Josh's point of view, like Goodfellas or Godfather, are they celebrating? They aren't doing that here. This is definitely scary. He's not a good guy. They're not saying you need to act like this or you're going to lose. Because at the end, they're saying it doesn't matter how you act. We're all going to kind of be in the same spot in the long run. So that's kind of one of the themes of this movie, along with, I don't know, it's just, like you said, Josh Brolin's character is both bad and good. He's got that humanity that ends up being a flaw. But the universe is still going to catch up with you either way. And that's kind of what one of the points of the movie is. And I don't know, just an amazing, just overall movie. Any other thoughts? All right, then our movie fight this week is favorite Coen brother movie. We did get some interaction with you guys this week. Robert, Adam of Grayskull, Timberlake has Miller's Crossing. Cousin Jeff has Burn After Reading. Zach Covemaker has hardcore three-way tie between Big Lebowski, Fargo, and Raising Arizona. Jason from New Mexico has The Stuff, and
what was his reasoning behind that?
Oh, he just asked if that counts. That was all.
I don't, but I'm still kind of confused.
Oh, I roll with it.
Okay.
Uncle Jeff said Fargo all day and every day for the rest of my life. Top 10 movie of all time. Doesn't get any better than this. Josh, after much internal debate, what did you pick?
It really was, because if I'm looking for the Coen brothers but want it maybe a little more lighthearted and funnier, I might choose Oh Brother Where Art Thou. And I think overall the watchability is on the side of Big Lebowski, but I didn't want to include that in this. We briefly addressed that as a possibility, and so Fargo is what it is for me. I love No Country for Old Men. Raising Arizona, when that turned 30 a couple of years ago, that was so great, like unbelievably good, way better than I thought it ever had been. There's True Grit even. I mean, there's no way to really say that one is better than the other, but coming back to it, other than Lebowski, it's Fargo. I laugh really hard at Fargo, especially in scenes that I shouldn't be laughing at.
Sean?
I lifted the Big Lebowski is my favorite movie of all time, so I just took that out of the conversation. That's a given. That's my number one, and stay with it. So I decided to just go with what my second favorite Coen Brothers movie is, and it's A Serious Man. A Serious Man is an utterly brilliant movie that people underestimate, I think, because they don't recognize the star of the film, and it doesn't have big stars, and it really is such a story that's kind of hard for a lot of people to follow because they don't realize what they're watching is a symphony in dialogue. It's a symphony of a movie where it's rising and falling with these stories of this man trying to just connect with his faith just in some way, and just the rise and the fall and this brilliant crescendo at the end with this giant tornado, and the movie ends and you're like, what? Like one of the best fuck you endings of all time. It's brilliant. It's such a great Coen Brothers moment. It's so perfect. You get there. I got to the end of The Serious Man and I'm like, this couldn't have ended any other way. This is the only way it could have ended. That was so great. I love that movie so much. I watched it again today just because it moves me on every level.
That's such an ending that I would want in every movie too. And in a way, No Country for Old Men has a similar ending.
It does, yes.
And those endings piss a lot of people off. I know some people that just think Coen Brothers don't know how to end movies, but I think you just don't know how to watch movies if you think that, is really my opinion. But And even I can't really argue with anybody's favorite. I mean, I get why Raising Arizona would be a favorite. I get why Miller's Crossing would be a favorite. I certainly get why Fargo would be. To me, it's put Lebowski aside, it's kind of its own thing. It's almost hard to even call it a movie. But to me, it's like Fargo, No Country for Old Men. I'm flipping a coin every time. And then, like you said, you want to go lighthearted, aside from Lebowski, Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou? But, when we watched A Serious Man a couple of years ago, or however many years ago that was, that, like I said, that one's right up my alley. I love that kind of bleak ending, especially when they make it, like you said, there's no other way to end it.
Yeah.
You could be bleak a lot of other times when you could end it other ways, but this one really was kind of the perfect ending. But I still think it's No Country for Old Men for me, just because it's my Coen brother movie. I was at the right age for that one, and seeing it in the theater and just being like, holy shit, I haven't had a theatrical experience like that in a long time.
I think you've keyed on something. For Fargo, for me, it was the first film that was considered kind of like indie darling, that kind of thing that I saw, even though it did get a theatrical release back in 96. Right. It was a low key and then had to go wide once it got some Oscar attention. And I heard so much about it. I saw it on video cassette. It was the first one of those. And for me, that was kind of an introduction to a much larger world. Otherwise, I probably would have stayed as strictly a populist moviegoer for quite some time.
Yeah, that was definitely that era. What year was that? That's kind of one 96. Of the first ones where I started. That was a movie that I was like, Fargo. Everybody's talking about this Fargo movie. I need to see this Fargo movie. And a lot of people that I saw it with hated it because they didn't like the way they talked the whole time. But
that's the best part,
right? But that was definitely an introduction to the Coen Brothers for me. Because I saw a lot of the ones for the first time here: Raising Arizona, Serious Man, blah blah blah. But yeah,
I had a great experience with A Serious Man because I'd gotten to the end of a year where I was like, this is it was kind of a shitty year. I don't even know what I'm going to make my number one. And then I sit down and watch A Serious Man and done, number one movie of the year. There it is. It was such a triumphant moment.
But even Inside Llewyn Davis.
Oh, right. One, yes, exactly. That movie is amazing.
That was my favorite movie of that year.
Yeah. That was up my. I can't remember. I think might have had it number one as well.
And I didn't have it right away. I think but that one kept growing on me and growing on me and growing on me. They're the best. They really are.
Another movie shot by Bruno Delbino, that director of photography. That's one of the best looking movies that I can think of, despite its inherent bleak storytelling and bleak cityscape too.
Yeah, bleak and funny.
I got to give a shout out to Jeff though. That's a bold choice of Burn After Reading, and that movie is hilarious. It is completely hysterical from beginning to end. It's Brad Pitt's best performance, arguably.
Yeah, that and Hail Caesar are movies that kind of get forgotten,
right?
And people would probably call them lesser Coen Brothers, but it's really not greater or lesser. It's just kind of their own. They're just their own things.
Yeah, 2016 when Hail Caesar came out in February, I remember being one of say 4 people in the theater, and I was by myself and constantly cracking up and hearing nothing around me. That was wonderful.
Clooney is so great in that movie.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So what are they doing next? Are they done with the theater?
I have no idea.
Because that was part of the reason was studios only want to make Marvel movies. I think it's one of the things they said. But I'll take it. Buster Scruggs was a ton of fun.
If they want to keep working with Netflix, if Netflix will keep giving them the money to do what they want, I'm all for it.
Number 18 in 1988. Squeezed and pulled and hurt my neck in 1988.
Squeezed and pulled and hurt your neck in 1988.
1988.
Okay, 4 movies from 1988. We'll start with the one I didn't watch that probably doesn't mean anything, called The Watchers. It stars Corey Haim. Seems to be a horror film of sorts. I don't know if anyone else has seen it. I know at one point when we talked about License to Drive, we had a big Corey Haim fan commenting on Instagram, so tell us about it if you've seen it.
I saw it years ago because my sister was obsessed with the Coreys, but I don't remember it.
Yeah. Also, a film that I regretfully didn't see this week, and it's the one that I regret the most being Mississippi Burning. Stars Gene Hackman and Willem Dafoe. Story-wise, I don't know much about it, but I remember it being lauded at the time and something that's controversial.
It's one of the best movies of '88. It really is. It's set in the 1960s, in the civil rights era in Mississippi, and there's a murder. And Willem Dafoe and Gene Hackman. They're from two different jurisdictions. It's been a while. I'm trying to recall it, but it's extraordinarily powerful. I mean, it's very emotional. It's very it's kind of bleak, but it tells basically a relatively true story of what actually happened, and Gene Hackman's amazing in it.
This podcast still has not killed Gene Hackman. Note that.
That's your shirt right there. Especially when he dies. This podcast did not kill Gene Hackman. Yeah, that was... I didn't get to see a lot of rated R movies as a kid, but this was kind of, I think, might be the first movie I've seen with the N-word in it.
Yeah.
I don't know why, I just really have a memory of my dad watching it and kind of being in and out of the room, but being pulled into it and him not wanting me there. But yeah, it's a hell of a movie.
I have a distinct memory of this movie being perhaps the first movie where I was like, oh, movies can do things that are serious.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is real. This is kind of a serious subject matter. And I was 12 years old at the time, or I guess I was probably 13 because I didn't see it till it came on HBO. But just seeing something so moving and realizing that movies were capable of that, because you're that age, you're not really watching anything terribly serious. I don't recall having watched too much that was terribly serious, but that one hit me in a way that I hadn't, like the first experience I ever had with a movie that was really emotional.
Both of you were waxing poetic about it, and I missed it this week.
But you saw My Stepmother's an Alien?
Oh, good God.
It's on Amazon Prime, by the way, just so you know.
Is it?
Mississippi Burning, yes.
Of course it is. I chose the one that I had to pay for. My Stepmother is an Alien.
This movie's awful.
It's really bad. Well, I gave it a shot because, number one, I like Dan Aykroyd sometimes. Kim Basinger is okay sometimes. And Richard Benjamin is the director of The Money Pit, which I really love, despite his, perhaps inability as a really great director, whatever the case may be. Well, it really shows itself here because it's got terrible special effects. To the point where you're like, oh, Mannequin did this whole fish out of water girl thing better than this one did, and Mannequin's a bad movie that I love. But this one is a bad movie that I don't like. Kim Basinger tries early on to give you some comedy, but that's not what she's best at, and it really shows here. All of the wacky stuff she's trying to do, I just don't believe her. I don't know. There's just something that comes off as disingenuous about that. And I don't know. It's a PG-13 movie that talks a whole hell of a lot about sexual things and whatnot. And I was thinking, oh, this is a comedy. You've got young Allison Hannigan as Dan Aykroyd's daughter in there, like 11 or 12 years old. And I was thinking maybe it was going to be something like a sweet, farcical comedy type thing. And instead it's is Dan Aykroyd going to bone the alien now? No, maybe later. And I didn't laugh a single time. I think I was trying to get into it, but no, it's bad.
It's so bad. It's unwatchable. I mean, really, it's just terrible, and there's nothing good about it. I don't know what did Richard Benjamin have a stroke about after the time he made Little Nikita.
Eek. I see what. Maybe
after that, here's what he made: Made in America, Milk Money, and he actually was the director of Marcy X. Oh man, is that a horrible film? Lisa Kudrow and Damon Wayans.
Oh, yeah.
Brutal. Just brutal.
I don't even remember that one. Yeah, I mean, I can see the marketing pitch for this one. You got Ray from Ghostbusters and the chick from 9.5 Weeks, but that's kind of all this movie. It kind of begins and ends there.
It doesn't work at all, and it's cheap looking and cheaply acted, and I was kind of lured into this one, I might add, as opposed to watching Mississippi Burning. But the biggest release of the week, we're talking $120 million or so in 1988, directed by Ivan Reitman, and that's Twins, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito. They are actually twins, just not, the same kind. Revisiting it this week, my thoughts are, yeah, it's not very good. it's not as funny as I hoped that it would be, having been directed by Evan Reitman. Danny DeVito here really isn't a likable character for most of the movie. He doesn't really say anything funny. He's not what he's best at. Arnold has some good funny lines, though, because he's the fish out of water here, and he's the supposed smarter one. And I had a good time watching him. But besides that, all of the things involving the sisters that they're romantically involved with in this weird convoluted drug plot or whatever. I think I had the most fun watching the assassin, actually, in this movie above everything else.
Twins. I enjoy Twins. I don't know why. It's stupid. But I enjoy the way Schwarzenegger plays this character. It's weird to see him so jovial. And that was kind of fun. And it's actually he's actually kind of cool sometimes, too, which is neat. Other than the forced kind of machismo that he does in his action movies. This is him being kind of a real guy and being fun. And I kind of dug that a little bit. I also just there's a moment that Danny DeVito has a moment in this movie that actually hits me hard every time. It's that moment where he finds out that he was the remnant, where he was just like the leftover pieces. And I was like, he takes that so very hard, and it's actually kind of moving to me the way he takes it.
Yeah, I like this movie, but I feel like I'm bringing nostalgia to it as well. It is... Schwarzenegger and Stallone get a lot of shit for not being funny and doing bad comedies, but this is definitely one where it worked, I thought, at least. And then at the same time, if you're going to remake movies, I could easily see them remaking this one being
with
fun.
The Rock and Kevin Hart.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I was putting Kevin Hart there, but you came up with the other side of that. Yeah, makes plenty of sense.
The only problem with that is they've done too many movies together. But if that'd be a great...
that's getting made, right? That's going to happen.
I would rather see triplets.
Which they've been talking about for... Who was going to be in it with
Eddie
them?
Murphy.
Yeah,
how do you figure that one? And that's the hook right there is kind of funny to begin with. I don't know.
Do it with Jack Black, Kevin Hart, and you're basically doing Jumanji.
Oh, that's good.
That's 88.
Yeah. Twins does have a couple of pop songs that I'd completely forgotten about because I hadn't seen it since probably Video back in the late 80s. The Brother to Brother song, just once that started playing, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really terrible. But the good kind of terrible, the one where I'm smiling while I'm hating it.
In a lot of ways, it's one of those funnier in the pitch room than the movie itself.
Like Junior, probably.
That one's legitimately terrible, though.
Right.
Whereas I think Twins is extraordinarily watchable.
Yeah,
that's fair. I did get through it,
but it is funnier to say Arnold Schwarzenegger and Dan DeVito are twin brothers. That's just saying that out loud is funnier than the whole movie, I think.
Don't tell 12-year-old Sean. He doesn't agree with you.
12-year-old son of mine, I was going to have him watch this, and then I'm glad I didn't again. It's another, just slightly above your pay grade, kid. I mean, I don't know. PG-13 ones that just a little too PG-13 for me.
A little too much side butt.
Yeah, and Arnold's post-orgasm face. Okay, if you seriously, one of you, the listeners, do that to your partner at some point. Okay, give him the Arnold O face. Well, maybe you still want to have sex after that, but
How does he name the podcast every week? It's amazing.
Arnold's O face.
Right here, circled on this piece of paper.
Crap.
Next week. I don't know whose O-face we're going to have next week.
Peter Jackson's.
More Clint Eastwood's. Or Ryan Reynolds. We got Once Upon a Deadpool coming here, I think. Mortal Engines, The Mule, Spider-Man, something or other, the cartoon.
Multiverse Spider-Man.
I'm not going to see Deadpool. I don't really count it. It's just Deadpool again, so I'm going to skip that.
It's the same movie, just without bad words.
They've shot 20 to 30 minutes of different footage that they're going to replace some of the more egregious stuff.
It's basically just Fred Savage as Fred Savage, but taken from the...
As I understand it, it's worth call it a Deadpool 2.5, if you will. And that being the case...
I felt really stupid seeing that Anchorman extended to cut, so...
Oh, yeah.
So I don't see a need for me to sit there.
Oh, yeah. It's my son's birthday. Technically today, we're celebrating it next week, so I don't know how much time I'll have to see things, especially with Return of the King this week. That is our classic.
3 or 4 days, yeah.
Y'all got a digital copy or a physical copy? Because I can loan.
Would have been nice if Peter Jackson did this like the Ballad of Buster Scruggs in 6 parts to break it up, and I can watch Little Monday, Little Tuesday.
Eventually, when Netflix remakes it, you can have your wish.
Amazon.
Right, thank you. That's right.
Which there is some news about that this week. They say it's not going very well.
They're going to remake
No
that?
shit.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
Why? It's not a remake. What
Like
it
a
is
TV
is
series version?
it's supposed to be a story that bridges both The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, as I understand it. But told in series form, and it's really been very slow to develop compared to a lot of other series. And I think it's going off of the success of a lot of medieval type TV shows like Game of Thrones, for example, and that's what drives this. But Game of Thrones is ending next year, and this isn't even getting off the ground. I feel they may have missed their window, kind of like Angry Birds releasing their movie 2 years later or whatever.
Well, part of the thing with Game of Thrones is I've never seen it, but I'm assuming it's just the random deaths that you never see coming. I don't know how you
and
do
the
that.
random nudity that you want to see coming.
Gross.
I didn't say whose nudity, but yeah.
The way you worded it, I'll break it down for you here.
Okay. Crap.
The random
Don't say any more, me.
The random nudity you want to see coming.
Oh.
There are a lot of dicks in that show.
Indeed.
And you can't really see the other coming, so...
You've never seen Game of Thrones.
Videos I can show you.
You can.
This podcast has now become rated R.
For 4 or 5 weeks now. Usually we save this for the flick charts.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's next week's show. Our classic is Return of the King. And then we're going to also recast 4 characters from Lord of the Rings
It's
movies.
a new segment, Recast It, where we're going to take the top 4 characters as we see them from the Lord of the Rings and recast them with different actors.
And what were the 4 characters? Frodo, Sam...
Aragorn,
Frodo,
and
Sam, Aragorn,
Gandalf.
and Gandalf. Yeah. That should be a pretty good assumption. I think those are the most well-known characters as well as the ones that... Yeah, go ahead.
Can I make a rule just for Bob? if you're gonna recast it with wrestlers, they have to have been in a movie before.
Ooh. What about a TV show? I mean, Bret Hart was in Lonesome Dove.
Are they in the Actors Union?
Yeah, they're in the union if they're on TV. I'm not going to use wrestlers at house. I'll try.
But Jason will, now that you've said that.
He just does that for fun.
True. Top 4 characters from Lord of the Rings you can place with actors from the stuff.
Yeah. We did recast it before the show. So.
Well, you guys did.
Well, why don't we do that now, what we said, so no one does it?
Yeah, okay. Just to rule it out.
Just so no one does it again. James Franco's Frodo.
Well, yeah, Josh was warning us not to use Franco, so immediately we went to Franco.
Of course.
And he's kind of perfect. And then Seth Rogen is Sam, which is definitely an upgrade over Rudy. Who is Gandalf with Jason?
Jason Segel.
And Danny McBride as Aragorn.
So basically, a movie you might see someday.
They cast the ring into the fiery depths of Mount Doom and then lit up a nice doobie right there.
They only light up doobies when it makes sense.
Oh, no, the movie is going to be 5 minutes long. They're going to have this problem. The ring exists. The eagle will come and lift them all to Mount Doom. They'll cast it, and then they'll enjoy a nice doobie off the coast of the volcano.
With the Backstreet Boys. So that's next week. Before I let you go, I want to thank our Patreon supporters. here are key grip levels, Jason Bryant and Charlie Messing. Our character actors, Cousin Jeff, Christina Cato, and Josh Paul.
I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Our special effects level, Sarah Ward and Corey from Ivy Envy.
May the Force be with you.
Our associate producer is Jason from New Mexico.
Everybody has to eat shaving cream once in a while.
And our movie stars are Uncle Jeff and Dave Sievers.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
If you'd like to be a Patreon supporter, head over to ihatecritics.net/Patreon to help support the podcast. And we do have a bunch of merch at ihatecritics.net. Click on the podcast merch tab. It's through tpublic.com. I think if you just search Everyone's a Critic podcast, you'll find us there too. And it's on our Facebook page as well and Twitter. I'll pin it to the top of those. But yeah, I'll start wearing stuff and supporting the show and showing other people that we exist. But yeah, otherwise, that's our show, and we'll see you during Flickchart and next week. Bye.
That ought to do it. Thanks very much, Ray.
And we're the three best friends that anybody could have. We're the three best friends that anyone could have. We're the three best friends that anyone can have. And we'll never, ever, 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 ever leave each other. We're the best three friends that anybody can have. I mean the three best friends that anybody can have. That's right, the three best friends.
Social Network or Live Free or Die Hard?
Social Network.
Agreed.
Hotel Rwanda or Pocahontas?
Hotel Rwanda.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Pocahontas for me was like when the Disney movies started to go down a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Not
once
that
you
it
get
was
Mel
bad,
Gibson
but
as a lead voice, you know you're going down.
I was excited about that. It was Short Circuit 2 or Coyote Ugly?
Coyote Ugly.
Short Circuit 2.
Coyote Ugly. Fight Club or Liar Liar?
Fight Club.
Fight Club.
Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves or Bad Santa?
Robin Hood.
I'll go with Robin Hood as well, but barely.
I don't like Bad Santa.
I like Bad Santa, but I'm going to go Robin Hood, but it's strictly nostalgia and Alan Rickman.
Mm-hmm.
The Terminal or My Cousin Vinny?
My Cousin Vinny.
My Cousin Vinny.
Fuck The Terminal.
Casper or Babel?
Babel.
Babel.
We sure? Oh, it is a good segue for my ghost story.
Oh, yes. Tell me about your Casper.
The ghost haunted me this week. I was wiping off the counter, cleaning the kitchen, and then I went to the laundry room to switch the loads out, and I came back, and there was 5 pieces of Kix cereal in a circle on the table. No way I missed it. That's what I tell my wife.
That's good.
First thing I did is I saw it, thought about it, and this would be good on the podcast. I would never. Guys don't miss wiping things off the counter. It's not possible.
Oh.
Clearly you have a ghost.
Yep, I agree. Finally. The Terminal or Clerks 2?
Clerks 2.
Clerks 2.
You need a Terminal story.
I just hate the Terminal a lot.
Rushmore or Jaws?
Jaws.
Jaws.
It's Jaws by a lot, but I do like Rushmore, okay. To Kill a Mockingbird or The Longest Yard, 1974?
To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yep.
Probably, although I do kind of like The Longest Yard. The Notebook or Gross Point Blank?
Gross Point Blank.
I agree. I'm interested to hear this next answer.
Fishing with Gandhi.
Finally,
it's the
Bob
first time I've used it. Kingdom of Heaven or L.A. Confidential?
L.A. Confidential.
Agreed. Hey, by the way, I was told in my house last night, this actually happened. This is Kim Basinger's best performance. About my stepmother's an alien. And I looked at her and said, what the fuck is wrong with you? Have you not seen L.A. Confidential? Yeah, that movie's bullshit. Oh my God. Wow. Oh, it's off.
Punch Drunk Love or AI?
Punch Drunk Love.
This is... Boy, they're both on kind of the same level for me. I'll choose AI because of the space crap.
I admire AI, so...
Punch Drunk Love. Sister Act or Tremors?
Tremors?
I still haven't seen Sister Act. Famously, I was unable to include it on my nuns list, so I'll have to go with Tremors.
I have a soft spot for Tremors.
Sorry, you said soft spurt. I went back to the
I did that too.
During Sister Act.
No, during Tremors. Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull or Finding Nemo?
Finding Nemo.
The Bourne Ultimatum or Planes, Trains, and Automobiles?
Bourne Ultimatum.
Oh, boy. If you'd said the first two Bourne movies, I would have gone with that. In this case, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
I'll go with Bourne. Rocky 3 or Ronin?
Rocky 3.
I like Ronin, but I like the nostalgia goofiness of Rocky 3 too much. The robot from Rocky 3 is going to be on... It is 4, isn't it? Oh my gosh.
3 is Mr. T.
Yeah.
Yes. Never mind. Ignore me.
Are you taking Ronin then?
No, I'll still take Rocky 3.
Ronin
I was just mentioning
have to be a much better movie than it is for me to pick it over Clubber Lang.
Yeah.
It has one of the cooler car chase sequences, and that's what I try and focus on is just that sequence. But otherwise, as a whole, the movie's pretty generic.
It is weird for me, though. Like, Sean showed me a podcast I should listen to on Rocky. I don't remember the name of their show. Unspooled. And just listening to people screw up which Rocky movie it is. It's so... I'm like, how could you not know this? It's common knowledge. But that's how...
I was trying to think of how was Rocky's hair in the movie I'm thinking of.
If 3 and 4, he's a lot alike. He looks similar.
In 3, he's got more of that, like, he's going to be an all-star. He's got the aviators on and stuff like that.
3 is when he started the plastic surgery and fixing them, which they address in the movie.
Yeah.
But 4, I don't know. But it was an okay podcast. They had some things wrong, but that's okay.
Coming to terms with your own mediocrity?
That was awesome.
Yeah.
That really, I think, is a great way of describing Rocky. But in terms of, like, the critic was getting upset at Creed, the movie Creed, because Stallone she goes, well, Stallone just won't let Michael B. Jordan have his moment. I'm like, he didn't write the thing. He didn't direct it. He was just in it. Quit blaming him for that movie. Ant-Man and the Wasp versus Walk the Line.
Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah, I would watch Ant-Man and the Wasp, obviously, again.
I think Walk the Line's kind of overrated, personally. Alice in Wonderland 51 or Tommy Boy?
Tommy Boy?
Yeah, Tommy Boy.
Scary Movie 2 or Shanghai Noon?
Scary Movie 2.
I have not seen Shanghai Noon. Scary Movie 2 it is.
Ooh. LA Confidential or The Wrestler?
Ooh, good one. I'll still go LA Confidential.
It's LA Confidential.
But I love The Wrestler.
And I'm sure that'll be our classic when that Page movie comes out or whatever. If it comes here, that Fighting with My Family.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
We'll make it the classic, whether Josh is weak or not.
No, I would be tempted to do that because that's one of those that I've avoided for far too long.
We've decided you're not going to like it.
Well, to be fair, if anyone was going to know, it would be either of you two if I would like it.
I am still curious, but I'm leaning towards I don't think you're going to. The Exorcist or 500 Days of Summer?
500 Days of Summer.
I agree.
Oh, fuck you guys.